start in next 30 seconds. Huh?
All right. Okay. Take a few deep breaths, I think, to start with, based on all that's happening. Yeah. Kirti, send me your questions if you have any, and we will begin. I'm going to start now, I guess. Hey, Sriharsh, welcome to the show. Tell me about it. Okay. We are
Hello.
episode 15, and it is really weird to introduce my brother, who's living just one floor below me, from his working desk, like a stand-up desk, and to talk about fitness. And this is fantastic. I mean, it seems to have caught on LinkedIn. A lot of people wanted to actually figure out who the hell this person is and how is he somebody who's working in software and is a fitness instructor at the same time, who's a physical trainer, and it's quite a strange combination. So I'm not going to bore my audience with um, talking about Sriharsh and his accomplishments in the software or management realm of things, but lest people not understand it, he actually works with Tieto Every. Have I got it right, Sri?
That is
Tieto
correct.
Every. And he is working in business development for a fairly long time, keeps traveling when we had no COVID-19 to various places in the Nordics. And more impressively, in my mind at least, he has combined it with a phenomenal knowledge, understanding, and application of physical training and how it actually impacts his life and everybody else around him. In fact, during this lockdown, he developed his own mini studio, and it is phenomenal to see the whole thing come into place. And he's actually started training some people who are, people who are either people like corporates or entrepreneurs or a mixture of both. And it's fantastic to see him guide them in their journeys. So welcome to Tell Me About It.
Thank you.
All right. So now that we are all being polite about with each other, we're not like that in real life. But the fact is that I wanted to keep it all focused on the topic at hand. Now, the topic at hand is an interesting one, right? What I wanted to figure out is the link between productivity and fitness or health. And I wanted our thoughts to be marshaled around that. I'm sure Shrikant can talk a lot about different aspects of fitness and diet and exercise, and maybe we'll get there as the conversation goes along. But during the short time that we have with him, he has a hard out in about 45 minutes. What we are going to try and do is ask him questions about, perhaps how does he see it all play out? And so the first question that I'd like to ask him is, Shriyar, do you see a direct or indirect link between the productivity and the creativity and the energy that you have at your workplace with the kind of physical fitness that you do? And what are your observations on that? And maybe we can riff of that a little.
All right. So I think it is a very interesting link between productivity and fitness. I think if you look at the pursuit of fitness, it involves a lot of elements that will find overlap in looking at making any aspect of your life more productive. So
Right.
you're looking like elements discipline, elements around planning, elements around consistency, having the patience to follow through on a plan, to get into the details and get your hands dirty in terms of the difficult things like nutrition. So I think it just creates a mindset where you are following through on something that you've set yourself in terms of a goal, and ensuring that your actions are aligned with that goal. So
Right.
it is about being productive.
So, we see a lot of CEOs, right, who are kind of fitness fiends in a sense. Do you have anything to comment on that? Because that's one of the things that I've noticed. I mean, in say about 20, 30 years back, people who were the business types, especially when we saw them in Hindi pictures and stuff like that, they had these pot bellies and they used to look old, man, and they used to look like prosperous and old at the same time and unfit. So, how do you compare and contrast them with reality, real life? I mean, you got Jeff Bezos, who's kind of ripped.
What? Yeah, that's a good example. I mean, if you look at all the heroes that we have in the corporate world,
Yeah.
Bezos, you mentioned. You also have the head of Google, Sundar Pichai. Then you have a few others. I think all of them are young leaders. All of them are probably between the ages of say 45 and I'm just putting a slightly more extreme upper limit of say about 60 or
Sure.
65, and they are heading large corporations. I'm sure they have a requirement to fit in several highly stressful things in a 24-hour day.
Yeah.
And this also includes spending time with children, ensuring that they are there for their family, ensuring they're getting sleep, and so on. So I think what we are seeing is that all of these top leaders in their most productive years where experience meets wisdom meets their career graph, I think are maximizing their output through
Hmm.
physical fitness.
So if I look at say somebody like Tim Cook or Sundar
Mhm.
Pichai or Jeff Bezos I mentioned, so if I look at people who are like middle managers or even
Mhm.
in their 40s or yeah, they seem to be saying that they don't have enough time, man. Okay,
Mhm.
so they don't have time and they've gone through a lot of stuff, and so they're like blasting some drinks and in general. So I've got nothing against drinks, and I know that you don't too. But the fact is that you see them actually having a very weird kind of lifestyle when actually the people that are inspirational, the CEOs,
Mhm.
are
Mhm.
doing all the right things, right? And so what stops these guys from emulating those guys?
I think I think two, three things are at work. I think overall middle management is a very vast layer of people who uh, I don't think are very clear with what they want to do.
Mhm.
Whether it is in terms of their career, whether it is in terms of pursuing something as a hobby
Mhm.
beyond just buying a guitar and keeping it, or enrolling for a saxophone class. I have a saxophone which I don't play. um, I think they are people who lead a life that starts on Friday night
Yeah.
and it ends on Sunday with grocery shopping and potentially the worst hangover of that month.
Yeah.
And I think there a lot of time, and especially in IT, I've seen that the bulk of this middle management is existing, they're not living. They won't mind a promotion, but they're not really trying hard. They're happy bitching about life and complaining.
Hmm.
And we make time for the things that we want to make time for. I mean, if we make time for alcoholic binges and partying, I'm sure we can make time for a 15-minute run
Hmm.
or a training session thrice a week.
So have you actually seen people turn things around in their lives and actually move from podgy to fit, or actually get that sense of purpose more than just from podgy to fit, which might be the physical manifestation of it, but just get a sense of purpose? And how do you see that play out? What is the turning point in people's lives? Why don't you talk about yourself? Maybe did you see it happening for yourself?
I all right. So if I just think back to why I started, I think it had got to a point where I was looking like a fat uncle about 10 years ago or 12 years ago.
Mhm.
I am also an epileptic, so I have these seizures and I have been on lifelong medication,
Yeah.
and that also starts slowing down your metabolism and makes you chubbier and myriad side effects. So I woke up one day to understand what should I do about feeling like a lazy so and so.
Yeah.
And what it did was initially the struggle was just getting into the gym or just going out for a walk, but
Right.
slowly you start understanding that you are setting your mind in order.
Hmm.
You're attempting to prioritize the right set of behaviors, and we talk about compartmentalization quite a bit, or we used to, but
Mhm.
there in my experience there is no such thing. If you start getting disciplined in your personal life, there is a very high correlation of bringing that into your professional life. and that is again, the link back to productivity. So
Okay.
so that does tend to happen.
Okay, but have you seen that? Was there a turning point? So it was just you were fed up of yourself. But have you seen it happen in others, or what?
Yeah,
What?
I have seen that happen with quite a few people.
Okay.
I think they grow in confidence. They're able to communicate better. I think the moment you start feeling stronger, if you're training with weights or if
Yeah.
you're going out for long runs, I think it enhances your confidence multifold. I
Okay.
think you become a less insecure person, more sure of your decision making ability, because you drive things that you learn when you're going out for a 5 minute run, or when
Okay.
you're trying to bench press a crazy weight,
Okay.
because it gives you that confidence that you can carry over. It also gives you that ability to focus and be in the moment, which a lot of the so-called middle management, they don't have. They're just whiling away time.
Yeah. So is it because they've just kind of lost the will to live? They've got their kids and they've got their hobbies and they've got a little bit of a bank balance, and so is it like that? So does it require that superhuman effort to just be not ordinary? Maybe.
I think what tends to happen is people don't react until a significant negative event happens in their life to improve their current situation. Now, if I'm say 40, I have a pot belly. Let's assume that I'm almost a certain candidate to be diagnosed with diabetes or hypertension or some sort of a heart issue in 5 to 7 years time.
Yeah.
Now, the reason why people don't change right now is because that event. So, for something which is an uncertain negative event in the future, the action right now and getting the hell out of my comfort zone are very low.
Right. So, in fact, then you must be like getting fed up with younger people. Actually, you can see them going down a particular path, which is going to end up in disaster. Is there something that you can say to those people, maybe in their 20s and 30s, which a lot of the people who might be listening to the show can be in? Is there a way in which you can make the abstract more concrete when it is not really bothering you at that point in time?
Correct. I think that the two things which I'm seeing. The first thing that I'm seeing, and this was when the gyms were open and I was working out.
Yeah.
A lot of the college lot was actually in the gyms and not in the restaurant that we used to hang out in, or wasting time smoking. So
Yeah.
I see that as a positive impact that probably things like the movies have brought upon us in society. So now
Right.
I'm hoping that generation, when they get into the corporate life, actually continue that connect to working out and exercise and wanting to look good.
But it's interesting that you say that, because a change of context actually makes a big difference. Now, like in Mica, I see a lot of people who are really fit when they get into Mica. Okay. Just because they are in this context, Mica's got a brilliant culture in terms of the fun that you can have and the learning that you can have. And it's like you don't sleep all night and then all of that, and it keeps going on like that, right? But actually, what's happening is, a complete change in the way in which things are.
Mhm.
Do you see that happening? What is it that you can tell people? Because part of the reason why they are in a college like Micah is to experience that. Those late nights or the whatever. So, is there any way in which you can hope to be healthy and fit at that point in time? Are you setting yourself up for failure? Uh,
No, so I think it is important when you're a student on campus to partake of everything that the campus life
Correct.
has to offer.
Absolutely.
However, you have to understand that when you're in your 20s, you can actually get away with doing a lot of stupid shit,
Yeah.
especially as it relates to lack of sleep, excessive, drinking, smoking, and so on. I think the ability of individuals to cope with stress is enhanced greatly if you're fitter and physically stronger.
Mhm.
And also something that every one of us owes to ourselves is to experience what the benefits of exercise can do when you're in a mentally stressed out situation,
Mm.
because it just puts an entirely different perspective on a specific mental challenge, and it just frees up a lot of confidence that that you can then use to actually tackle whether it is a assignment or submission pressure. I know as students we also, we have affairs and we fall in love, and we are dumped and we have breakups. I think the ability to get into a gym and work that out will only stand anybody as a student in very good stead.
Yeah, okay. I can stand testimony to that actually, because over the past 6 months I've been working out with you, and one of the things that I've noticed is the amount of energy that I've got on my fingertips, man. It's like an amazing amount of energy. I just wanted to ask you a related question to this. Now, you've got working out, right? But then you've got food, and then you've got sleep. Okay. How do you actually look at all of these things together? What do you actually look at? What's most important? What's least important? How do you actually figure it out?
Well, it's like a tripod, so it's difficult to choose. However, there are very clear scientific studies that have now proven that nutrition is number one.
Okay. So what do you?
We are what we eat. And drink, obviously. Sleep is number two, because that is when we recover. A lot of the repair happens when we get a good night's sleep. And we start understanding that when we miss sleep, we can get away with a 2 to 4 hour sleep situation when we're in our 20s. But try doing that right now. You won't be able to function in your mid 40s with a 2 to 4 hour night sleep. So that is the second. And training is the third. I think what training does, but people don't understand, is that it helps us get stronger and build more lean muscle. It does not help us burn fat or replace what nutrition is supposed to do.
So that's very, very interesting, because when people say, hey, I need more energy, the first thing you do is the third thing you're mentioning, which is the working out. But actually, you're not taking care of your nutrition, nor are you actually taking care of your sleep. That is quite an eye opener for me, because if you're looking at nutrition, then what would you advise somebody who is maybe not very fat, but somebody who wants to get more energetic, get more? How would you approach a situation like this? I don't want you to give diets or anything, because that's obviously different. Yeah.
Right. So I think people are at various spectrums of the fitness levels. So it's like a fitness spectrum. So let's assume that a typical individual is overweight by about 10 odd kilos, 10, 12 kilos. We could call him technically obese or her. Now, that individual's challenge is not to start substituting white rice with brown rice and start having oats every morning. Their challenge is to stop binging on French fries and excessive alcohol.
Right.
So if the idea is, if you are facing here, then there is no point in creating a plan that forces you to, do a 180-degree switch, because you're going to come back to where you were. The idea is to make very incremental changes. Can you sleep for 2 hours more consistently every night? Can you go to bed on time and wake up on time? Can you stay hydrated through 8 glasses of water or 6 glasses of water or whatever? Those are the kind of small changes that we need to make. Can you go out for a 15-minute walk every day? These are the small challenges that we need to make.
Actually, the most interesting thing that you said is that these are small changes, but whenever you're confronted, like, I think emotionally you are at a stage that you want to make these big ass changes in your life that is going to miraculously turn your thing around. So you kind of do the most obvious things, which is like buy things which say they will make you thinner or something like that. So then you make those weird dietary choices, right? So how do you guard against that? Because it's so fucking tempting.
It is tempting, and it's right now where people are sold the promise of something which is too good to be true. Now, let us assume that I wake up as an obese so-and-so, and I immediately go online and start searching for a silver bullet that is going to help me move from an overweight individual to look like, say, Tiger Shroff or Vidyut Jamwal in a matter of 2 months, without understanding that those guys have been working out for 10 years. It is very similar to when we see a musician on stage perform a song that we love, and we start, practice. We go get a guitar or whatever and want to play that song.
Yep. We
but
all
we
do that.
don't see the effort behind the stage.
Right. But then what do you advise such people? Because they'll say, hey, can I eat these baked chips or something like that? So how do you must be going out of your mind when you get questions like these.
Well, not really. So I think it is important that we understand where on that fitness spectrum a person is, and
Okay.
what sort of changes is he or she open to making.
Hmm.
The one thing that I have found out is to understand true motivation, and whether a person is going to truly hold herself accountable for the process.
Hmm.
You cannot outsource anything to a trainer or an external supplement.
Right.
But that motivation has to be truly meaningful. Do you have a newborn child, or do you want to spend more time with your children as you grow old, being fitter so that you are able to play with them?
Yeah.
Um, or do you want to stay alive after your bypass, or but it could be more existential. A lot
Yeah.
of times people wake up when it is existential.
Hmm.
They don't wake up for a future uncertain event.
Right. Okay. Any advice on so when somebody comes like that and says, huh, I want to get onto a diet. Okay. How do you react? What's your first thought that goes on in your mind?
All right. So if it is so there are two kinds of things, conversations I typically have. One is a casual conversation, which
Yeah.
I try and answer in 5 minutes.
Right.
Now that conversation typically does not go in any level of depth. But
Right.
when a person who comes to me about these questions,
Hmm.
uh, then I typically take about 30-45 minute one-on-one
So actually,
uh, time with that person to understand the drivers, where they're coming from. We peel the layers, we have those 5-7 whys, get to why they actually want to change. It might be that their sex life is suffering, or some other things are happening, or they want to look good in general, so they have low self-esteem. So there are various things that you need to tap into, and like I say, vanity is a motivation. It may not be a noble sounding motivation, but anything that gets you to lead a healthier lifestyle is a great motivation for me.
yeah, no. So what you're saying is supposedly shallow motivations, like I've got to go to Goa in 4 months' time, and so I need to want to have a body that rocks. Okay, is in your mind a good motivation because it will allow you to make those behavioral changes.
Or start, or be willing to listen.
Okay.
Now, obviously, expectations in terms of your patience and the timelines, they have to be set right.
Hmm.
Uh, but you have to start somewhere.
Okay. Any advice on sleep? I know you've been talking about ashwagandha as a supplement. Talk to us about sleep and what is the most important thing as far as sleep is concerned? Because see, a lot of people think that sleep is completely expendable, and they come from that perspective. Now, how do you convince a person who says, "नहीं यार, मुझे तो 2-3 घंटा ही लगता है," and so that's what they're doing, because they already have an overcrowded schedule as far as work is concerned. And so I'm just trying to keep it as real as possible. People want lives, people have, the need to chill out a little, watch a little Netflix, etc., etc. So what would you say to people like that?
I think if I have to invest, so let me answer this in two ways.
Yeah.
A short and witty way would be, if I had to invest in 8 hours of sleep versus the most powerful pill on the market, I'll invest in 8 hours of sleep, because that
Really?
burns the most fat. Yes, it is.
Really?
The scientific
No, no,
literature on this is
I need to say it's no. Even I didn't know this. I okay. In spite of living so close to your physical presence, I didn't know this. So what you're saying is, if I sleep for 8 hours a day, it is going to be a better fat burner than
yes.
any other measure that I may take.
Probably yes, and definitely an off-the-counter fat burning supplement. Um, because
Oh.
a number of things happen when we sleep. You have greater growth hormone secretion, which starts. There's a process called lipolysis, which is fatty acid mobilization, that only happens when growth hormone is secreted. Growth hormone is typically secreted during our sleep cycles.
This
The
is so
second,
counterintuitive, man. Like sleep, fucker, sleep.
yeah, you better. And the second thing is, when you are sleeping, you are not eating.
Ah.
So sleep.
Right. That is so interesting. So when you're going to sleep at, let's say, 10:30 and not going to sleep at 1:30, you have actually not eaten.
That is correct. And also in terms of efficiency of sleep, for all those people who pride in being, late night people or night owls,
Yeah.
every hour of sleep before 12 midnight is worth 2 hours of sleep after in terms of its efficiency in healing your body.
Whoa.
So if you sleep from 10 to 12, it is the equivalent of sleeping from 12 midnight to 4 a.m. So
So
just think about that.
how do you change? I mean, great, I'm convinced, but how do I behaviorally change? Do you have any tips for this?
Yeah, so I think I am now leaning increasingly towards a person called Jocko Willink,
Oh
who
yeah,
is a great U.S. Marine and a plane talker on YouTube. He
yeah.
says that once you decide something, don't look for fluffy ways to achieve it. Just
Mm,
start doing it. So if you
mm,
want to sleep at 10, start
mm.
waking up at 5.
Yeah.
Wake up at 5 for 5 days a week, you'll start sleeping at 10.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, we shouldn't be trying to sleep at 10. We should be trying to wake up at 5, and you'll be so fucked over if you do it for 5 days that you are going to sleep at 10 o'clock, and very happily so.
That's
Very,
correct.
very interesting. So sleep, sleep is the ultimate. Guys, please take note of this. What about? Okay, so what I wanted to ask you was sleep. We've covered nutrition, and tell me something about these fad diets, man. These days, okay, so now, maybe it's unfair to call them fad diets because we got the vegan thing, we got the carnivore thing, we got the Atkins, whatever. I don't even know some of them, but what's your take on this? I mean,
All
you got
right.
something like Jordan Peterson also saying that, oh, he goes on a carnivore diet. And so a lot of his followers start following the carnivore diet. What's your take as a physical trainer who's, actually certified, who's been doing this? What's your take?
All right. So the one thing that we've taught
Hmm.
as part of if you do a good certification in nutrition
Hmm.
is that there is no single best diet,
Hmm.
and there are the scientific literature on this is very clear.
Hmm.
When calories are equated,
Okay.
uh, whether you're following an all carnivore, a
Yeah.
high fat low carb, a high carb low fat, or some other diet, when calories are equated and protein content is kept constant, the benefits that you get in terms of fat loss, in terms of insulin sensitivity, in terms of cholesterol levels dipping, they're all the same.
Uh-huh.
So, so the idea is if I'm a dietitian, I want to set up a practice.
Yeah.
What is the quickest way for me to gain followers online? Let me start pushing the keto lifestyle, or let me start pushing the intermittent fasting lifestyle.
Yes, sir. We are listening to you. You can continue.
All right. So that is unfortunately what is happening in terms of these fads.
Okay. So I just wanted to ask you one more thing. Like
Mhm.
we've been sitting at homes, the pandemic is striking us, and like work from home has become more like work, work, and work only at home. When you're at home, you have to work. So what do
Correct.
you suggest to a person who is sitting at home and like they are dedicating 10 hours to work? Should they manage a schedule where they can find time to maintain their health?
Well, I think there are two, three things that you need to do. I think the boundaries now, when we're working from home, the boundaries between our work and our personal life, they have sort of melted. So
Okay.
what we're now understanding is that we might actually have 1 or 2 hours in the middle of our workday where we don't have meetings. Leveraging that time, you have to start standing up like I am when you're actually doing your meetings instead of sitting your ass down. I have dogs behind me, so you'll have to excuse that. And
Yes.
also, the one other thing that uh, I truly advocate is if you don't get time through a workday, don't wake up at 8 o'clock and get into a meeting at 9. Wake the hell up at 5. Make time, make fitness a priority.
Yes. Thank you.
So that
So
you're a mute, I think.
Sorry for the commercial break, fellows. I'm back.
No.
And the fact is that I was really surprised, and you left me on tenterhooks with that sort of response to the diet thing. You were talking about these dietitians coming in with and them wanting to stand out. I think that's where I left the scene, so to speak. But maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Yes, so I think the quickest way for me to start pushing a diet is to latch on to what is currently trending.
Yeah.
If I tell you about energy balance, and you can design your own nutrition.
Too much work. Too much work. Yeah.
It is too much work. If I say ketogenesis, do this, cut out carbohydrates from your diet. See, we have these celebrities preaching it.
Yeah.
I get 10 clients who lose 5 kilos in a week, and keto does that, by the way, because you end up losing a lot of your water stored in muscles because you're not having carbohydrates. So you can show very quick results, but I mean, to go through life without having bread or fruit, it's a difficult thing to do.
What's your advice on drinking?
I think I love drinking and alcohol. Everything in moderation is fine. Binge drinking is difficult. If you have very specific performance goals, then I would advise to cut back on drinking significantly. Because when the body has consumed alcohol and you've also eaten, say, the leanest chicken with it, the chicken is not going to be partitioned till the body gets rid of the alcohol, because alcohol is a toxic substance.
Right. Right. No, absolutely. Makes sense. What do you have to say about, so we've covered sleep and we've covered nutrition and some of these fad diets and all. And some of them seem to be just plain wrong, maybe for you to be following in the long run. But you know what happens? Like when you said, oh, you can lose up to 5 kilos and whatever, I am sure like a lot of people are like me and they'll only hear, oh man, I can lose 5 kilos in 2 weeks. That's what I've got, right? Because that's how a human being is working, because they want to listen to that piece of communication and forget the rest.
Right.
So the more I'm understanding it, the more I'm thinking about it, it is coming down to a set of choices which are around discipline. And you mentioned Jocko Willink as well. I wanted to just take this question a little further and ask you about, you're studying on sports medicine, right now at the moment. Now, how do you see the sports performance mindset and the corporate mindset? Do you see any link, and can you benefit? Can things work out if you go about it? Can you learn from a Federer or a Djokovic?
I think we can learn a lot from sport. I think sport is a lot more cutthroat than even the dirtiest of corporate politics is. Because in the corporate world, you can be a non-performer and survive and still be on a team. This is not possible either in an individual sport and definitely not in team sport. So there is a direct correlation between hard work and performance in sport. There is somewhat there in the corporate life. When I think there's a lot of things that sport teaches us. It teaches about, again, discipline, about consistency, patience, about teamwork, about the ability to listen to coaches or to listen to your peers and mentors. I think there's a lot of overlap. I have an article on LinkedIn that talks about things we can learn from sport.
Let me ask you a different question than which I'm sure you. The question is that suppose a young fellow comes to you or a young person comes to you and he or she says that, listen, I want to be CEO by the age of 40, okay, and I want to I want you to guide me energy wise, and I want to be as sharp as possible to bring my A game to the table, right? How would you go about approaching this sort of request?
Well, so let us assume that this is like a person who's 25.
Yeah.
I'm just assuming a time span.
Yeah.
So when you want to be a CEO, probably at the age of 40, you have to be willing to put in about a 16 to an 18-hour workday consistently.
Yeah.
And that is what we then train for. So how do we maximize sleep? How do we maximize nutrition and hydration? And how do we ensure that that individual is not going to be an obese, lazy ass by 30?
Yeah. Okay. But now this person is geared towards sports mindset and go rah get it. Typically would be one of those people who are maybe I'm stereotyping, but those A-type personalities, want to reach out there, and you're telling them to calm the fuck down.
Well, no, probably not. So I think when you have a type A personality, you can actually set goals. They will probably respond very well to targets, which are also fitness targets, because they are target driven and they want to achieve and overachieve.
Right.
So it is very easy to motivate these kind of people in the fitness world.
Okay. So what about maybe people who are not like that? People who are, just want to coast by and say, "Yaar, mujhe nahi hai. I want to take it easy, but I want to do kind of live a good life." Sort of.
So in which case you start talking about, making behavioral changes for them, and talk about the process more than the result. So,
Okay.
will you be willing to make this change if it improves your life by this much?
Okay. So it's a bit of a back and forth. It's a bit of a
There
negotiation.
is definite back and forth, and I think this is where being a good listener and coach and understanding motivation helps.
I think I'll tell you what happens, and you're quite the notable exception for it. But a lot of the physical trainers or coaches or something, they come with a certain mindset, and that mindset is do it my way or there's the highway, right? So, in the sense, you got to work like this, man, and you got to do these things, and I think that puts off a lot of people. What's your take on that?
Well, I have a very simple philosophy. It is the student that makes a teacher. Now, if I have students or clients, or a way that is non-offensive, but still ensures honesty.
Yeah, because a lot of times people must be afraid to get in touch with somebody like you, because then they're accountable not only you, but they have to face you, right? And so, how do you make people comfortable and yet accountable?
I think that first in terms of how will it go, what the method is,
Okay.
what the expectations are on both sides. Because I actually ask them what their expectations are of me, and also state my expectations and vice versa, and then ask them to think about this and make a decision. I have a trainee who's he came in full of bravado, and I had to spend the next half an hour trying to motivate him to think about this as an event that he and not be embarrassed about.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
Not come for the next session.
Yeah. No, that's probably very important. I have a couple of more questions for you, and I'll have a googly at the end, which I'm going to ask you. But the question that I have for you, which is more to do with now supplements. You're looking at supplements. How important do you think are supplements in whenever you're working out or whatever? And which are the ones that you recommend?
All right. Now, so there are now in good evidence-based nutrition literature, the recommendations are that there are 3 tiers of bore you with everything around this topic. But in tier 1, we have whey protein, which is now categorized as a convenience food and not a supplement, because it is still milk protein.
Right. Convenience food. Okay.
Correct. The second is caffeine. Now, caffeine is probably one of the most effective supplements.
Really?
Yes. And at a point of time, that also was banned in Olympic sport.
Oh, wow.
But so many athletes were consuming caffeine through coffee and a few other things that they could not stop its consumption. And that is why caffeine is now allowed.
Vocal. Okay.
Correct. And the third one is creatine monohydrate. It promotes retention in muscle tissue and increase ATP storage, which is an energy molecule that we use while weight training.
Okay.
These 3 supplements are in the tier 1 of all supplements which are supported by scientific literature. So these are the ones that I recommend.
So you recommend those. But what's your overall take when somebody asks you for some magic pill or something like that? How do you deal with an answer like that?
Well, like I said, the magic pill is sleep and nutrition. Now, I will repeat the same answer in different ways based on what kind of person is asking me that question.
Right. Okay. So, but I'm glad that you're blessed with a lot of patience. Okay.
Well, there is no choice.
There's no choice. There's no choice. Okay. So here's the last question, Shri, from my side, which is a bit of a googly. What is your uh, cheat day look like? How does your cheat day look like? What do you do? How do you
I have
yourself?
I cheat every day at 3:30 in the afternoon, where I
Okay.
make two slices of the most succulent French toast. You know this, by the way.
No, I
I
thing. I thought that was a normal food, man. You're calling it a cheat
uh,
meal.
Yeah, for me, French toast is so. The idea is to look at food without thinking that it is a cheat meal. Now, French toast is something which is a sweet bread, which is shallow fried. It has egg yolk in it, and a lot of people who want to get a six pack will probably not have a French toast. All
Mhm.
right. The other cheat meal that I've been having consistently are the Friday night pizzas that you order and I partake of. I had a couple of slices yesterday.
Yeah. Okay. So do you feel terrible when once you've had a cheat meal? What does your mindset actually go through?
Not at all. Actually, all right. So it is about energy balance. So I know how much I'm consuming. So
Hmm.
I know what my nutrition budget for the day is. So
Okay.
if I have a big dinner plan tonight with friends and we're ordering burgers and so on.
Okay.
So I have planned accordingly.
So
I've eaten lighter for the day. Yeah,
okay.
and we balance things out, and then it becomes part of your thinking process.
Do you think it makes sense for us to actually look at life not on a daily basis but on a weekly basis in order for you to plan better?
I think so. At least as far as training and nutrition is concerned, a week is the bare minimum that I would encourage.
Okay.
Specifically, when it comes to weighing yourself daily and looking at weight loss, your weight can fluctuate by up to 1 kilogram depending on if you've pooped or not, if you've slept or not, how much water you've had.
Okay. Last question. What's the question that I didn't ask, which I should have asked?
No, I think you asked a lot of questions.
Shut up and let me go. I need to go and actually
No,
train
no.
people.
I think you did a good job. You covered a lot of content in a short span of time.
All right. So, well, thank you so much for being here. It's been an absolute pleasure. I don't think I've ever seen you that polite in life as I've seen you on camera. But, well,
It's a
wonders never cease. Wonders never cease. On that happy note, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for being here. And, see you soon, I guess.
all right.